So good afternoon. I thought I'm gonna make another video to explain a little bit the difference between H2 and H4 or 9003 and 9004 headlights. And I found on Heller's website, Heller is probably one of the oldest German manufacturer of headlights or headlamps, and they had the demonstration here. You can see the upper two pictures are the regular headlight, and the lower two pictures show the creation of the high beams in them. And you can see in the version I have is I guess either one of the two works as well as the other, but on mine I have a reflector in my light bulb, in the 9003 light bulb, which deflects the regular headlight downward. And like I said, is on my unit I have, is that beam or that outer reflector can actually be adjusted down. So when your car is loaded and it doesn't have the leveling suspension, say like if you tow something, you have something on your hitch, if you have a hitch installed, it will go up and you can actually lower this beam back down in this direction, otherwise it's going to come up. This is really the only difference. Now the other fellow from, I guess from the United Kingdom, mentioned this, that the colors, when we're talking about LEDs for headlights, you're looking at a white color. The most regular incandescent light bulbs we're using still today, and actually my car here in Kansas is one of the few cars which has actually incandescent light bulbs for headlamps in it. You're looking at about 3,800 Kelvin to 4,000. That is more that amber type of light, which was the traditional light bulb. Most cars here are not as old as my car, so they all have already the HID type Xeon lights in there, which have the white, which is more like 4,000 to, I would say 5,000 to 6,000 candles. And no, not candles, Kelvin temperature in it. And those lights, is pretty much permissible. What Kansas regulates, is I read the statute on those, is you cannot have any red type of light in the front, so not to confuse oncoming traffic with rear lights. All the red is reserved for the rear end of the vehicle. And of course, who the hell would put a red light or blue light in there? This is not what we're talking about. If you choose an LED or a Xeon light, you want to stay most likely around the 5,000 Kelvin range when you look at the light bulbs available. That will give you a white and a as higher they go, say like to 6,000 or 6,500. We call that actually a cold white, and that will give you a clear white. And actually I found it better that those headlights with that temperature, you can better see things in front of you, especially when they're dark. Say like a deer, if you're driving across country, you will spot a deer with a 6,000 Kelvin light much sooner and better and clearer than with 3,800 or 4,000, because that amber is close to the color of the brown skin of a deer or boar, a wild boar, which has a grayish, blackish kind of color. You will see animals or pedestrians who wear dark clothing much faster with 6,000 Kelvin than you do, and better than you do with the regular lights at 3,800, 4,000. That's what most of the regular halogen bulbs are, when you have the incandescent lights. The other thing is, of course, with these higher output lights, the LEDs have about, I would say, 5,000 lumens or so in terms of intensity, is that your headlights are correct adjusted. And what that means is in the left-hand driver, we're driving on the right-hand side on the road. This is what you're seeing here. This is also coming from Hella, and this is why that is all in German. And the lumen amount what you actually need to go out in a certain distance. This is now your regular headlight without the high beams. Is you want the right-hand light to be going further out than the left hand. This will reduce the amount of interference it will cause with oncoming traffic. You can see this here. And 50 meters, you multiply this roughly by 3 is about 150 feet. And 65 meters multiplied by 3 is about 180 feet, 200 feet. This would be 300 feet, and that is 450 feet. This is the traditional ranges what you get with incandescent light bulbs. With HID, you will see this here differently. You will see it will go out much further. And this is the actual pattern. These patterns come from Mercedes-Benz. That is in their training manual for the new lights. Let me just show you this, that you see this, where they're coming from. Actually, I moved them over here. Here. This is actually Mercedes-Benz material. That is their trainings manual, which they're giving out now for the new cars. So I thought I'm going to utilize those as well. Here you can see now the same thing as they're going out to about past 150 meters, which is about 450 feet, 500 feet in that range. And on the new vehicles, they automatically adapt the range and they change the patterns automatically. This is now for the new Mercedes-Benz. This is the highway pattern. Now, this is all the regular without the high beams. We're not talking about the high beams. This is just the regular headlights adjustment, the low beam. And they will extend this out to about 600 feet, 700 feet on the highway because of the increased speed. And this is adapted already at about 70 to 75 miles an hour. That's when this change takes place. And it will also extend now the driver's side headlight, the left head side low beam, out past the 300, 400 feet mark. And you can see this where that is normally down at about 150 to 200 feet. So this will give you a much better visibility. And with the cool white, you will detect anything in your path much further. And this is the combination then with the fog lights on how they come out. The fog lights will extend the left side further out. But we want to look at this. And the reason why you want this is just to give you an idea. At 55 miles per hour, you're traveling about 80 feet per second. If you drive at the full speed the 126 can do, which is 155 miles per hour, that is about 250 kilometers per hour. I put this in here so you can see this. The cars are not limited by the horsepower. The 242 horsepower unit will drive as fast or go maximum speed the same as the 300 horsepower. And the reason why is the 300 horsepower was primarily used on the heavier vehicles, which had more weight because of the personal protection equipment, the special units, basically armored vehicles. So the additional 50 or 60 horsepower was primarily consumed by the armored windows and the armored plating inside the doors and other parts of the car. And that gives them both a maximum speed of 250 kilometers. This is only applicable to the 5.6 liter engine. The 5 liter and 3.8 liter have a different ratio, gear ratio, transfer ratio in your rear end, in your rear differential. And you will not come over 225 kilometers an hour or 220. That was increased or lowered the ratio which gives you, was it increased? I think it was increased, so that gives you more turns on your tires than on the previous models, which required larger engine sizes. So that's why the 5 liter went to 5.6 liter and the 3.8 went to 4.2. With the 4.2 liter, I probably would say your maximum range is 225 kilometers an hour. And the actual limiting factor in the system is your fuel pump relay, because it will cut off the fuel pumps at a certain RPM, which could be between 5,200 RPM to 5,800 RPM. So if you want the full speed capability of the cars, the only thing you have to change is the fuel pump relay. And you have to look on it. It will tell you what the maximum RPM is on the fuel pump relay. And then you can adjust this. I have the 5,800 or 6,000 RPM fuel pump relay on in my car, and that will allow me to drive 155 miles an hour. And at 155 miles an hour, you're traveling at roughly 230 feet per second. The normal response time is 2 to 3 seconds, so that means you're traveling before you even reaction time, before you can even respond. You're basically driving or traveling literally 1,000 feet in that time. And 1,000 feet is covered by the newer lights, which will be the LED or the HID light bulbs with the same type reflector you got already in your car. Because of the higher lumens, you will be able to see 600 feet out. In most cases, it will go out to about 800 feet. That gives you a 2 to 3 second response time needed for this higher speed. And of course, at the lower speed, if you triple this here, 3 second response time, you're already at 250 feet, which is roughly 100 meters. So if you're driving 70 to 80 miles an hour, your 3 second mark is going to be around 100 to 150, which the conventional light will do. You can see this here right here. So this will give you the maximum with an incandescent light bulb in terms of reaction time. So you will see something enough 1,000 feet out, 800 feet out before you can. So you have 3 seconds to respond, to either hit the brakes full power, and then of course it's going to take you an X amount to come to stop, or you have, make a maneuver to go into the different lane. And you can see this here too on how this change pattern is between regular low beam lights and the new enhanced lights from Mercedes-Benz they're putting in there, where this automatically switches over. I thought I'm going to put this in again for the light color. What you want to choose is probably a range of 5,000 to 6,500. The closer you get to 6,000, 6,500 is more of a cold white you get. And the cold white has the advantage of being able to spot darker objects on the streets. A black car, for instance, with no lights on it. You will be able to spot something like this much sooner with LED or HID lights than you do with incandescent, because of the higher temperature. I would not go into a blue light, which is around 7,000 or up, or anything lower into the reddish that would be under 3,800. Those make no sense for driving purposes. Like I said, it's 5,500, 6,500. In that range, you're going to have the optimum light you actually need. Interestingly enough, here in Beja, the city went ahead and they replaced the old 3,800 Kelvin Kelvin lights, street lights. We had that orange light, which really didn't show you anything. It was more of a nuisance. And they have put cold white in there, especially on that road we have right around the corner from where I live to Urschland's store. Urschland is a farm supply store. They got a lot of stuff, and I drove up there the other night, and I saw this, and those lights are by far more better, when you have that cold white, and I think they're right around 6,000, 6,500 too for the street lights. So the city has changed quite a few of them out, and you can see the difference. But this is basically on how this interacts. And so when you do your changeover, if you change or want to check your headlights, this is basically the pattern you want. The right hand beam, for we're driving on the right hand side, has to come out further, much further than the left hand. This is for the low beams. That is your basic adjustment. The high beams will then, of course, brighten everything up. That is a different story. But for normal driving, when you just drive on low beams, you want this pattern here to be extended out. Mercedes-Benz went past the 50 mark. They're closer now at 75 with the extended range. The way they're doing this, 75 meters, it's about 250 feet on your right hand, on your left hand light, and you want to come out to about 200 meters, which is about 600, 700 feet out with the right hand. If you are on a left-hand side driver country, in a left-hand driver side country, Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom, India, or any other country where you're driving on the left-hand side, this pattern is, of course, exactly mirrored. You would have that then on your left-hand side on the chassis, since you're a right-hand driver, then, and it's always the opposite from where the steering wheel is, basically, is the prolonged area, so you can actually see the side of the road and pick up anything on that. I thought I'm going to explain that for the people to eliminate the confusion. Again, in the United States, these LED lights, as long as they are creating these type of patterns, are legal, and if they're within the color range of 3,800 to 6,500, they would be considered legal too. The intensity of it really hasn't changed that much, because if you adhere to these patterns, you will not blind any other drivers, whether you have 300 lumen or 5,000 lumen intensity. It really doesn't make any difference. That is the situation here, is that the lights are correctly adjusted to those patterns, and that's really what you want. And with that, you have a great afternoon.